Hello and welcome back to the X-Files Revisited. We are on to Season 3, Episode 13. Brian, it's called...
Syzygy. That's the way
Yes.
I've always pronounced it anyway. I don't think they actually use that word at all anywhere in the episode.
Nope.
But
I,
yeah.
I don't even think it's a word, Brian.
Yeah.
It's like a
But
death scream.
yeah, I've always just said Syzygy. It just rolls
Yeah.
off the tongue that way. But
Yep, so tell us a little bit about the legacy of this episode.
I think there's a few things in the episode that amongst fans have kind of become classic moments, like the Scully saying "Sure, fine, whatever." Is often quoted by X-Files fans in message boards and things like that. And if you're a fan, you know where that's from, things like that. And then certain gags, are definitely become part of the X-Files kind of staples. But with regards to the episode as a whole, I'm not sure it's held in that high a regard, to be honest. I think it's more that there are moments in it that are.
Okay. And do we have the IMDb ranking? Do we get to
I'm gonna,
guess?
I'm gonna pull that up right now, so you can throw some guesses out while I'm trying to find it.
Okay, how many episodes is there again? 213 or something? Or?
Something like that, yeah. So
Right,
it's
okay.
217 episodes
Right,
altogether.
okay.
So let me find.
I'm going to say it's not. Okay, I'm trying to think where it would be and guess where the fans would put it. I am going to go for 137.
You're going to go for 137. Well, unfortunately, IMDb, being the nonchalant douchebags that they are,
Yes.
I've completely changed everything around since we last came on, and now I can't find it.
Well, Brian, if you search, the truth is out there.
So
but
they're not.
they're just changed it to mess you up. Is
They really
basically
have.
what's happening.
So normally it was on the side. They had right. I found it now. They've moved it to the
Right.
top, but it used to be on the side. You'd go to the side, you'd find it, top episodes, and it'd come up. So let me start looking. Right, Syzygy we're after, and you said what?
Yes. 137.
You think it's around 137? Let's have a
do.
look. Going
Yeah.
down, going down, going down. Going. You sound very confident there, almost as if you've looked it up
No.
beforehand. And
That seems like too much preparation, Brian. Obviously, you don't know me that well.
well, we're all about the preparation, as you can see.
Yeah.
We're on the ball
Absolutely.
here, guys. On the ball. Right, I've reached 61, and we're still not seeing any sign of it.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, come on, come on.
Now, this is
Come on.
episode is written by Chris Carter and
It
directed by
is.
Rob Bowman. So,
It is. Rob Bowman being a very strong director, I think, and the more the series goes on, the more like we're analysing it at a deeper level, the more I'm thinking Chris Carter isn't perhaps the best writer on the show. But we'll get into that, I'm sure. Right, we're in the hundreds and still no sign. Yeah. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Oh, we've got it. So you say 137.
I do.
IMDb says 127. So
Wow.
not a bad guess, man. Not a bad guess. So
Wow.
it has an average rating of 7.8 on IMDb, which in reality terms that would probably be like a 4 out of 5. So yeah,
Okay.
we'll see.
Okay, so let's jump into the episode. So we open up to a eulogy, kind of, by classmates of
Ryan
someone
Reynolds.
by someone who has died. And it's just kind of meandering along, and then there is that magic word that makes you sit up and pay attention. Cult. This could be
Sits up and
something-
makes you pay attention.
Yes, like this could be another classic, like Red Museum. And
And from the opening of this, I was actually thinking more Die Hand die Verletzt.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
At this moment, I didn't think there was anything supernatural or that going on. I just thought it was somebody killing it, and I was pretty sure immediately it was these two creepy girls.
yeah. Like nothing says serial killers like two blondes with too much eyeshadow. It's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, they've got killers
Big,
written all
big
over them.
hair and big ideas. They,
Hmm.
I was just like, yep, nope, not at all.
Yeah, yeah.
And they kind of talked to Boom.
I put in my notes. Ryan Reynolds gives a touching eulogy before two blonde virgins catch a lift from it.
Yeah,
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 they indicate to him in no uncertain terms that they're virgins, and perhaps
yeah,
the only way to protect themselves from this cultist is to have sex. Wink, wink.
yeah. They get that fun conversation as they go into Boom's car and they're driving away. And Boom is I kind of like this because he's obviously upset. He's got tears rolling down his eyes, but there's glimpses in between that, the sadness of, hang on, there's a little opportunity here as the girls are literally throwing themselves at him, in the most like overt way. There's no subtlety here whatsoever, but it's kind of funny, and you're just positive. You're positive immediately. The girls are up to no good, and these are the ones to watch.
Yeah. What do you think of Ryan Reynolds' little cameo there?
Yeah, yeah, surprising.
He's still got a bit of like puppy fat going on around his face.
Yep.
I was just like, what
Yeah.
on earth? Yeah.
This is long before. Is it Blade 3 that he slimmed up for?
Yeah,
Was it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, like the thing is that so they find this guy in the morning. This is what gets me. The police are all out. They're combing the area. They've clearly found
Yes.
him. They're all kind of climbing up this rock, and then the camera, in typical Rob Bowman fashion, kind of cranes up over this rock, and we find the girl still sat there playing
Yep.
a game of Loves Me, Loves Me Not. So they're
Yes.
pulling petals off, going Loves Me, Loves Me Not, and then they have a little giggle and run off. But it's like, the police are literally right down there now
Oh,
as you're doing this. Not only that, I'm pretty sure that if you've got police on foot at the
yes.
crime scene, by that point there is certainly a chopper in the air. There is no way that they have found the body and are all surrounding it and whatnot without a chopper being up in the air. And these two girls are just like sat there playing games, and it's just
On a picnic blanket. They've got them
on
nice
a picnic blanket. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a bit
And
much.
these girls felt as if they were almost a little bit like Heathers. So
Yes,
they had that little
definitely.
thing about them, like, about the actual Heathers in that
Yeah,
movie, the
yeah.
girls.
Yeah, I think
Um,
there's definitely a Heather's vibe in this whole episode, to be honest, with as far
yeah.
as the school setting is concerned.
And then we get the introduction to Mulder and Scully as they are driving towards a crossroads. Um, and they are bickering like an old married couple about which way to turn. They turn one way, and then we wait a few minutes, and then the car goes back the other way.
Yeah,
And it just kind of lets you into something that's going to happen throughout this episode where everybody's constantly not being themselves, a
yeah,
little bit displaced in the
yeah,
world. Of course, we get to that later on, but
yeah,
at this
yeah.
point, it just seems that they're just old, married, bickering.
Yeah. At this point, it feels like, oh, here we go. Carter's having a crack at a Darren Morgan episode. We've had a few Darren Morgan episodes already this season, and it feels like Carter wants in on that action, so he's having a crack at it. And I will say, as far as some of the humour goes, he doesn't do too badly. But what's sorely lacking in comparison to a Darren Morgan episode is the thematic element,
Yes.
and the pinning down of the humour always onto the main theme that
Yeah.
he's trying to ride. That's definitely what separates Morgan and Carter as far as their writing is concerned.
Definitely. So, where do we go from here, Brian?
So Mulder and Scully meet blonde detective at Ryan Reynolds' funeral. I'm just going to call him Ryan Reynolds. There's no
Yep.
way I'm calling him Boom because that's just a stupid name. But yeah, so they
Detective
they
White.
meet. Detective White, who is, he's not bad looking, got to be said. I could understand there being an attraction from Mulder there, but certainly Scully doesn't approve.
No, one thing I really liked about this scene was the sheer weird nature that they turn up at a wake at a funeral, and then literally start having a discussion in the middle of the room.
Yeah,
it feels like, while people are mourning and there's a eulogy being said, they're just there.
But again, this is Heather's. You think Heather's? There's a few funeral sequences in Heather's that start to get more surreal as the film goes on.
Eskimo.
Eskimo. So that it definitely had that Eskimo vibe about it. For anyone who's seen Heather's, you'll know what we're ranting on about. But so she called them in because of eyewitness accounts and lots of talk about a satanic cult. Scully quickly debunks this theory about a satanic cult, while Mulder takes the piss out of her debunking it. The so-called eyewitnesses are the two girls, the only two people who don't run away when Ryan's coffin bursts into flames.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
If
that doesn't say guilty right there. It's like, one, you've probably been found by a police helicopter playing Loves Me, Loves Me Not above the crime scene. Two, now when some kind of freaky-ass thing happens, you're the only two who don't get up and run. You just sit there quite nonchalant, like, this is just normal, everyday kind of occurrence.
Yeah, but you get that person that runs in and starts ranting and raving as well. In the middle of this wake, it's like, why is there no control over that person? Why has he chosen this moment to come in here and just start scaremongering? Which is just weird. But it kind of, it never made me curious about why people were doing things out of the ordinary. Like, you can understand Mulder and Scully, but these people, you don't know. It's a small town. They could just be crazed like that.
Yeah, like it's not like they've gone into a town where there happens to be a group of circus freaks who, have reasons. Here it's just like, oh, my name's Chris Carter, I'm going to do that. But I've given them no reason as to why they should invest in the kookiness and the weirdness that's going on. Now, it is amusing, but the things I find amusing about this episode are the Mulder and Scully dynamic. And every time they're on screen together, acting and reacting both to each other and to the other people around them, that's when I find that the humour works. And I think that is mostly down to the chemistry and the performances by Duchovny and Anderson. And, they're old hats at this now, at this point. So they know their characters, they know how to milk humour from them. I wouldn't necessarily say it's from Carter's writing.
No. Definitely. And then we kind of cut to a joint interview where you've got Scully interviewing Terry and you've got Mulder interviewing Margie as they tell the exact same story.
I think this is a really well handled sequence, actually.
It is, yeah.
Now, whether that was reached at the script stage or whether it's editing, whether it's Bowman taking the script and adapting it with his directing, whatever, doesn't matter. Either way, it's really well done. The way it cuts back and to from one room to another. This person starts a sentence, you go to another room, they finish the sentence. It shows that they've got their stories down pat. They are identical, and you can see the frustration on, particularly Scully, as she she's already made her mind up. She already kind of figures it's all nonsense, and it's pretty clear who's kind of pulling the strings here to her. But
Yeah, and there's a good moment later on where Scully, I think, because Mulder yet again jumps in and almost lays down the facts that she's going to say, but he does it in a kind of mocking fashion, an antagonistic way of doing that. And there's a moment later on where Scully says that we always do have our difference of opinions, but you're being a little bit twisted about it this time.
Yeah. She basically calls him a prick, and I kind of feel like she's right to do so in this situation. I'm kind of on Scully's side throughout most of this, to be honest. I feel like Mulder's the one who errs more on the side of douchey with regards to their interactions. But so it basically says it basically ends with there's no evidence to support what they're saying, and Scully is getting impatient. Because that's basically what Mulder says to the detective. If you're sensing, sensing impatience in Agent Scully, which is really kind of undermining, and
Indeed.
So the three agents check the body, Ryan Reynolds' body, and Scully explains that the body could have burst into flames due to a chemical reaction with the embalming fluid. Mulder and Blondie, as I'm going to call her from this point, see a horned beast burned into the chest, while Scully does not. Then Mulder gets impatient. Scully's response, sure, fine, whatever. Now, I got to say, I don't see a horned beast, but I do see the V for Vendetta symbol.
Yes.
Into his chest. I'm just... Yeah. I'm like, remember, the 5th of November.
Yeah, indeed. Absolutely. But Scully seems to be pushing back even harder against Mulder's, wanting things to appear that way. She's just like, I don't see anything at all, nothing at all. I mean, obviously there's a circle there, you can see that, but she's just...
There's clearly a pattern that would that does seem rather odd to have been burnt into the chest.
Yeah,
but Scully
not natural.
Not natural. But Scully is clearly, there's a jealousy setting in here. She doesn't like this blondie kind of coming in and clearly stealing Mulder's affections.
Yeah, and she kind of snaps her latex gloves on. Dismissively. Because Mulder says, I know how you just love to slap on the latex. So, to which point she does. Which is one of my favourite quotes, actually, which I forgot about. But, Oh, so good.
Mulder goes to Blondie's house to ask for help solving the mystery of the horny beast. Not the horned beast, but the horny beast. And then Mulder and she has a cat as well, which will crop up again later in the episode. He kind of picks a cat up and hands it to her, which is a nice little moment, which you don't really think about. But then when it comes back later, it's like, right, there's a reason. There was more to that scene than what we thought was going on, but whatever.
So, and then after that, we jump to the astrology person.
Yeah, like a weird spiritualist astrology.
And this is a nothing scene. Like, I find it as a nothing scene, only to bring this person back later on.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a setup, innit, to bring them back later on. It's like, there's a thing with filmmaking where they say that you shouldn't be introducing a new character within your last act, within your third act. If you got an important character, you shouldn't be introducing them in the third act. So clearly, this scene is here to introduce this character, which we're going to go to later on in the episode. And as you quite rightly say, you could merge the two scenes into one and just introduce her later, which I feel like Carter introduces her now because it's like, well, writing 101 says you can't introduce someone that far in the game, so I'm gonna put her here now, just so hey, keep hold of her. She's coming back later. But
the thing that gets me is she's like, oh, she alludes to something in the constellations or whatever, and she's like, but business hours are this, and I can take credit cards. And I'm just like, well, why doesn't he just bring out a credit card right now and deal with it?
I know. Yeah. Well, because she's not working business hours. But like you say, if Carter didn't have to write that, he could have just wrote it as one sequence, boom. But it feels like he wanted to take a bit of a pot shot at astrologists, at spiritualist types, which is why he's kind of he's made this character out to be a bit of a money grabbing whore. Yeah, so.
But because everything that goes on, this is also the kind of explanation as to why everything's happening the way it is as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So
So
anyway.
yeah, because ultimately the explanation is, hey, the planets are aligning, and due to gravitational fields and whatnot being a little bit
Yeah.
askew,
Basically,
things like
Jupiter
that.
was in Uranus.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Precisely that. Yeah. So, but yeah, you're right. They could have quite easily merged the two scenes into one, cut down on some of the baggage. But I think one, Carter was going for the laughs, and two, he wanted a little bit of a dig at the astrology woman type, and three, he just he thought, I need to introduce this woman a bit sooner,
Yeah.
because if he introduced her now and then let her do her thing, give the explanation, then we already know what's going on,
Yeah.
and then from that point on, there's no kind of tension,
Hmm.
dramatic tension within what's happening because we know why it's happening. Whereas if he introduces it now, then it sets up a little bit of tension, although it's the kind of tension you don't need because it's already coming out of what's going on. And then you come back to it later. So it's not very well handled from a writing perspective. It's questionable as whether or not it needs to be there, but it's a bridge scene between other scenes, I guess, that for whatever reason he felt like he couldn't pitch out. But
so we go from there to a fun sequence in the gym hall.
Yep. So we've got
Terry and Margie.
Terry and Margie sit watching a basketball game. They look like they're selling lemonade, to be honest. Clearly they're there to offer refreshments. Why they need to be sat there doing that, I don't know. Why they can't just have the table out and let people get it as and when they please? Because they're not taking money for it. It's not like they're 20p for lemonade. No, they're just sat there.
It's not that. They look as if there's about 15 people on the court, but there's about 50 cups sitting there.
Yeah. They're playing a really hard game. They're going to need a lot of drink. So they sit there playing this game of kind of date him. So they're basically checking out all the different basketball players and go, date him, wouldn't date him. They're like that. They are literally Heathers, yeah. Although more annoying, because when Heathers came out, it was obviously a send up of a lot of the John Hughes stuff, which is why it gets away with being kind of over the top. Whereas because Carter's asking us to believe this is within the X-Files world, which is kind of, again, you go to Darren Morgan, there's a reason that his off-kilter stuff works within the X-Files world. And that's mostly because Mulder and Scully remain who they are. Sure, Morgan takes the piss out of them a lot, but that's from the perspective of the freaks that he litters into their world. Whereas here, Mulder and Scully become like the comedic world that he's put them into, and it's just a bit off. It's like you've thrown them into Heathers, and it's some of the gags are working, but overall it's a bit weird. So they're playing this game of date him, won't date him, and then a player spills the juice. So basically he crashes into the table, spills the lemonade.
Just before that, there's one player that they do like who goes to his girlfriend who they ominously look at her, and then she kind of flies backwards onto her ass. Yeah,
like they've got some kind of telekinetic powers.
Yes.
So a bit of carry worked in there, So player spills the juice all over them, and then moments later he is crushed when the bleachers close in on him, a la The Faculty when it kills the alien at the end. So basically every high school movie, although this came out before The Faculty, so we'll give him credit on that one. This was well before The Faculty, so
I was getting a little bit of The Craft vibes as well.
Yes, in this one. Yes. Although when was The Craft? Was that 95?
95, 96.
96, yeah.
So
I mean, this is early season 3, so I'm reckoning it was before The Craft, but don't quote me on that. See, that's the thing as well with watching these episodes now in retrospect. It's very easy. It's very easy to say, I've seen that before, and it's like, but when you watched these way back when they came out, it like people forget, man. They forget the impact that the X-Files had on culture. Like a
Absolutely.
lot of TV shows, a lot of movies started to emanate from out of the X-Files. Started to kind of take that vibe because that's what people are interested in now. The Faculty. We mentioned the Faculty. Even in the Faculty, they mention the X-Files. There's a line in there where they drop about the X-Files, and that's because of how big it was at the time.
It's culturally important, I think, definitely. But I think it's sometimes written off a little bit because it quite clearly has influences itself. If you look at episodes like Ice, it was quite clearly a take on other things. But whereas there's a certain point where it did take ideas, but it also gave a lot out as well over the next so many seasons. Where you're seeing it just in every episode.
Yeah, I think what it did is it took things like The Thing and movies like that, Carrie and all that kind of thing, The Exorcist, they were movies that were kind of to a large degree are on the fringes. Like they were enjoyed by a certain crowd, and it was almost like back then it was a bit like being a comic book geek. It's something you didn't admit in public. And what X-Files did is it kind of consolidated all of these classics, added its own thing, did its own thing as well, and made that stuff cool. So that by the time you're getting into the late 90s, you are having films like The Faculty. You are having a lot of these kind of sci-fi / horror films that have become cool, not just for a select crowd, but for people in general. So, that's a bit of a dovetail, but there you go. I just feel like it's important sometimes to remember that because it can be very easy because you get our critical heads on. It's like, Carter is just ripping from this, ripping from that, and it's like, no, actually, this was 95, so there's actually a lot that came after this that probably ripped off this, to be honest. So, yeah,
definitely. So go back to the murder scene.
Yeah, dude gets crushed by bleachers.
Yeah.
Blondie comes with them. They're examining the scene. Scully shows up and gets pissy with Mulder for ditching her, which is understandable because it seems like he's been in this town for 5 minutes and he already seems to have replaced her with this other blonde detective.
That's where she says the line, we've always had our differences, but this is the first time you've ditched me.
Yeah.
She's aggrieved. She's annoyed.
Although I'm sure that's not true. I'm pretty sure she's ditched him before.
Yeah.
He's ditched her before.
Definitely.
Yeah. Because I'm pretty sure we've commented on that many times about the fact that he's just gone running off doing his own thing. But yeah, I think this time it hits a bit more personally because of
this is the first time he's ditched her and taken up another partner.
Yes,
to go
that's it. Yeah, I think
that's the crux of it all.
Absolutely,
she's been replaced.
Yeah,
reds are out, blondes are in.
So they go to a spot in town where a bunch of hysterical people are searching for evidence of sacrificed children. They find a child's bones, which, I'm sorry, I took one look at that and instantly could recognise that was not a child's bones. It's got a snout and everything. It's clearly a dog or a cat or something. So they find this child bones inside a bag belonging to the local paediatrician.
Yeah.
And then they basically get the pitchforks out, start heading down like...
Yeah. Why they don't... I mean, they know the bones are there. Why not create an area where everybody's back, but literally some guy's just hanging over the top going, "It's a baby! It's a baby!"
And I feel like it would have been... I feel like the episode would have been exponentially improved had the guy's accent been a Scottish accent. It's a baby!
Makes everything better. But yeah, this group of this group of mad people, I think is an interesting aspect, and I think it would have been fun to see more of them getting themselves wound up in that mob mentality, because that definitely speaks into the current world we're in, where
Yeah.
you have that mob
Like
mentality.
hysteria. Like
Yeah,
town hysteria could have definitely been a theme that could have
yeah,
been worked on. I mean, it feels like that's what Carter is trying to do.
yeah.
Because everybody's acting out of character, so it's really all about hysteria. But you look again. You look at what Darren Morgan did with War of the Coprophages, and he basically did a better job of that whole hysteria thing within that episode, within one sequence. You know, where Scully
Yeah.
goes into the store and everyone's mad buying and stuff. Like he worked it into that episode in such a better way, and whereas
Yeah.
this is just so disjointed and all over the place. And I feel like Carter throws things in there because he thinks, oh, this will be funny. Like,
Yeah.
for example, they go to this pediatrician's house, they're banging on the door, and then he comes running downstairs dressed in a woman's nightgown
And lipstick. He's lipstick.
and
on.
lipstick. And then it's never mentioned again.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that? They don't
yeah,
mention
yeah.
this again? It's
They
just...
don't mention it.
They don't
I-
even see it. Like they're banging, they're banging on the door. I feel like we've had a scene cut out, to be honest. But they're banging on the door, and the next thing we know, we've gone to, like an
Interview.
interrogation scene. Yeah, and this guy's dressed normal. And
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
he's ditched the nightgown.
it's supposed to be funny just for the sake of this man's dressed in women's clothes, but to be honest, I just like this guy's trying to get his kink on, and then all of a sudden he gets interrupted.
Yeah, but it has no bearing on anything.
Nope.
It's like it's Carter just saying, "Hey, this will be funny," and it's like if Morgan had put this in an episode, there would be a reason for it to be there. Thematically, it would have something to do with whatever is going on thematically throughout the episode. It's just it's bizarre. Like I've made notes here as I do on each episode, and when I was making the notes, I wasn't this critical with him. I put the notes. I thought that'll be an interesting talking point.
Yeah.
Interesting talking point. But it's only when we start chatting it through that I start to realise that I've already dropped my score. I'll tell you. I'll tell you right now. I had a different score at the end of this, and
Right.
based on what we've discussed so far, I'm dropping it down a bit. Because it is that thing where I just feel like it's almost like Carter suffers from the George Lucas syndrome in that he's an amazing world builder. He's amazing at crafting the story elements together, but he's bloody terrible at writing them.
He's a born showrunner.
Yes, he's absolutely a born showrunner, and I wouldn't have had anyone else at this point, running the show. Certainly, the X-Files wouldn't exist without him. So I don't want to come across as that X-Files fan douchebag who's kind of pissing in the pot that is, that pissing in his own pot, so to speak. But I just feel like Carter's strengths are in running the show, kind of pointing it in the direction it needs to go in, but then handing it over to writers like Frank Spotnitz, like Darren Morgan, like James Wan, Glenn Morgan. But the moment he tries to do what the other guys are doing, it fails.
I think he normally does, or maybe I've not noticed before, but he usually does like the big episodes, the end of season ones or the beginning of the season, the legacy episodes that are added to the larger story that are more that they're story driven, they're important to the narrative of the entire season. And these standalone little episodes that have nothing really to do with it, I don't think he's really got a grasp of what drives them.
He does excel at the mythology episodes. You
Yes.
know, like you look at the stuff that he's written, like with Anasazi and those kind of things. Absolutely, that's what he needed to stick to. Although, if you've seen season 11, you'd probably take that back. But certainly within the initial run, like season 1 to 7, mythology stuff, he was really great at. That's where he showed his skills as a writer. But when he tries to do these standalone ones, like we've had 2 from him this season so far. The other one was The List, the one in the prison, which I've got to say for now, I think it's probably my least favourite episode of this season so far.
Right.
Because when we talked about it, it was just every scene was just like, ugh, just like why are we having this scene? Why are they telling us once again it's the same information? But yeah, here again, it feels like he's trying to do what another writer has done very successfully, but he's not quite got the talent to do it, to pull it off. Well, he's not quite got that talent. I'm not saying he's not a talented writer, because like we said, mythology stuff is good. When he tries to do this,
strengths.
not so much.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So, here we go. Right,
Bob is being questioned.
Say that again.
Bob is being questioned. Bob the crossdresser.
So Mulder and White question him, but Scully lets him go. So she comes in saying that his story of having sold the bag checks out, and that the bones are that of a dog named Mr. Tippy, who belonged to Terry. Scully gets pissed off with Mulder again when he sniffs her.
Yeah. Yeah. And the weirdest moment is they bring in one of the girls to like hold up the skull, and just kind of like, why is she even there?
It's her dog, isn't it? It's Mr. Tippy.
But she buried it and gave it away, type thing. Got rid of it, and then
she's now holding it like he's literally just dug up her dead pet, and now are forcing
in
her
an interrogation room, just as an interrogation is going on. Look, I don't understand why she's there at all. Again,
there's a lot of things in this episode where I feel like Carter thinks, what's the most efficient way to tell the story from a visual standpoint? And I will credit him with trying to think that through, where like again you look at the beginning, you've got in one simple crane shot, you reveal that the guy's dead, his body's been found, the girls are clearly involved in some way, and it's literally all just in one shot. That's a very efficient way to give a few different pieces of information, and I can see what he's trying to do there, but the situation he's set up in order to do that doesn't make sense. Like two girls still being sat there when the police are showing up, and here, he tells the story. It gives a lot of information within one scene that all takes place in one room. That's great from a visual standpoint. You can give us everything you need to. And not waste any time, but it doesn't really make sense that, as you said, that you would drag this woman in, give her dead dog, and let her sit there with it and relive the personal anguish that she's probably already gone through after burying it. So, yeah.
It's just weird.
But she gets over it.
Yeah. Back to Mulder sniffing Scully.
Yes. I'm struggling to remember why he did that. But
it's the perfume. When they're all in the room, he's like, somebody's wearing my favourite perfume. And she drags them outside. And then that's when he goes up and sniffs, and he's like, oh, it must be Detective White.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. So it's literally there just to say, hey, Mulder's acting out of character. He's being a bit weird.
And he has a favourite perfume.
But beyond that, it doesn't really... There's no real meat to it. It's just, hey, wouldn't it be funny if Mulder did something out of character? And so he throws a random line out about perfume and gives Scully a sniff. But Terry and Margie are celebrating a joint birthday, which is very new information, and kind of at first makes you go, hang on, wait, what's going on right now?
Yeah.
Why? She's just been holding her dead dog. Now they appear to be celebrating a birthday, and it's their birthday. What? They're both?
Yeah.
Okay. Are these sisters? Are they meant to be twin sisters? No, they're friends. Okay. So it's just like you know what I mean?
They're acting even weirder than ever. Why are people there when they just seem to be a little bit outcastish as well?
Yeah. I know, like clearly these two are not the kind that are running any popular groups at school.
Love the dancing though, Brian. The dancing was amazing, just tremendous.
So,
it was somewhere midway between like a fashionable dance and a seizure. Just utterly loved it.
All right. So Terry and Margie are celebrating joint birthday, and then Brenda, which I believe is the girl from earlier that
Yes.
they didn't quite like, she's playing with a Ouija board there that tells her she's going to marry Satan.
Yeah.
To which she freaks out, runs off to the bathroom, where she then finds Terry and Margie playing Candyman. Sorry, Bloody Mary.
Bloody Mary.
In the yeah. So it's just like, hang on a minute. My geography's all off here, because it's just, they were literally just downstairs. We cut to the Ouija board stuff, and then we cut to this. It's just very choppy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very like, it's just stuff happening. That's the thing. It's just like, here's some stuff, and here's some more stuff, and after that there's some more stuff. It's like,
Yeah, it doesn't feel connected naturally. It feels just disjointed and uneven, because it is.
yeah.
Yeah. So after this scene, we hear screaming at the end, but we don't get to see what exactly has happened. We get Mulder drinking and Scully smoking.
Yeah, pacing around a room with a fag.
Yeah. While they flick through the channel that's showing nothing but Keystone Cops.
Yeah, Keystone Cop. I was sat there. I knew what it was, and I couldn't remember the name of it. I was trying to write it in my notes, and I couldn't remember what it was. But yeah, Keystone Cops. Boom. So yeah, Detective White shows up to tell him to tell Mulder that her cat has been taken. Then she tries to jump his bones, just as Scully enters to tell them that there has been another death.
I didn't like this, right? Because Detective White's turn is such a staggeringly quick one. You know, from being like kind of insulted and a little bit of a, put off by Mulder's sniffing of her,
Yeah.
like in disapproval of him drinking. She kind of goes to the door, stops. That's the change. Takes a drink, jumps him. It just and if we're saying that it's astrology and things that have been happening, what's happening to Mulder and Scully has been happening since they arrived. Detective White's been there for the full time, and we've seen no indication that she's like this or has these kind of things. And then all of a sudden, it just happens.
Yeah. Again, it's just it's disjointed is the best word to describe this episode. It's just stuff happening. Almost feels like it feels like a film that's been taken out of order. Like you've kind of put the reels in the wrong order, and now we're just kind of watching it happen. And like you say, the fact that Mulder and Scully are already acting weird when they get there is because from my understanding of it is that it's only going to affect this town because the two girls were born on the same day during this stupid astrological event, which is happening again. And that's why everything's going weird. But like you say, Mulder and Scully start acting weird the moment they get to the town. So it's just,
And you see it in everybody else, like the principal who's leading the group of the mob. You see it's affecting other people, but for some reason Detective White seems to be an instant just out of the blue.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so Mulder and Scully then proceed to argue over who gets to drive. And I do... this is a moment that genuinely made me laugh.
Yes.
First time I saw it, and every time since, which is when they're arguing over who gets to drive, and Scully's like, "Oh, you've got to drive, have you? Because you're the big man." And then Mulder's like, "No, I just didn't think your feet could reach the pedals."
Your little feet.
Your little feet could reach the. I just wondered if your little feet could reach the pedals, which is just classic.
Which was funny, but I was still aghast that she was going to let him drive a car after he drank like half a bottle of vodka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they care at this point.
Nope.
But, yeah, so Scott is mourning the loss of Brenda at a diner when Terry and Margie show up to make him feel better.
Yeah.
He walks off in disgust. Terry gets mad, but Margie seems to respect him for it and goes after him.
Yeah. It's a fun sequence. It's just a strange place to mourn. To be honest.
In the diner, yeah.
Yeah.
Just chilling, having a drink, mourning the loss of my girl.
I can't believe this has happened. Give me a large chocolate shake and fries.
Large chocolate shake and a Whappy burger, please.
Yeah. It's just weird. But anyway, it gives the girls a moment to come in and just kind of do their stick that we've seen earlier on.
Yeah.
I like this guy's a little bit more sticks to, be actually being mournful.
Yeah, he's not willing to just take the offer of sex just because it's kind of thrown in his lap. He's just like,
Yes.
You girls are off your faces, and walks off. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So
we go back to the astrologist.
Yeah, so Mulder goes to see the wacky astrology lady, who basically tells him everything that is happening is because of some planetary alignment, which all sounds like a load of bollocks. Basically,
Yep.
It's just like the most. We don't have to do any kind of explanation. All we got to do is say loads of planets are in alignment, so it's making people act weird. Particularly because these two girls were born on the same day. All right.
And Jupiter's in Uranus.
Jupiter's in Uranus. Yeah.
It's just. Yeah, it feels like a very weak get out of jail free card.
Yeah,
This is
because
how we're gonna
normally
explain it.
we do have science, don't we? Normally we have some hokey science, but
Yeah.
usually at least science.
It's just it's like we'll throw in some key phrases and job's done. We're out. Yeah.
Pretty much.
So, and it also it's at night.
Mm-hmm.
It's out with our business hours.
Oh man, good catch! I didn't even notice that. Yeah, it's that she chucked them out last time because it was night time, and now they're back.
And that cost them $300.
Well, it cost the FBI $300.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure Mulder's probably charged that on the FBI card.
Yeah, I hope he got a free jar of like snake oil with it as well. 'Cause, my goodness.
So, Terry and Margie both follow Scott separately. So Margie to seduce him and Terry to call her out on ditching her. Then when they get into what appears to be a psychokinetic battle, our scanners, Scott ends up being killed.
Yeah. You've got red on you. It's just it's almost.
Yeah, it feels very Scanners-esque.
It does. It does. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's a nice little scene, I guess. I think it shows that these two girls are definitely behind, because once we got the explanation from Astrology Lady that it's the planets making everyone act a bit weird, that kind of started making me think that the girls weren't to blame, that actually it's just everyone's acting weird. But I think clearly that's not the case. I mean, do we actually get an explanation? We still don't get an explanation for Ryan Reynolds' death, do we? By the end of this episode, there is no. We don't know if they did it in a premeditated fashion or whether it was some kind of accident.
I mean,
he's hanging. He's hanging himself.
Yeah, he's hanging with like a climbing rope.
But did they talk him into it? I can't imagine they overpowered him. With their telekinetic energy, I suppose.
Well, that seems to be like just the quick, abrupt, violent. The telekinetic energy. It's not like.
But that's what I mean. Like this guy, it doesn't seem like the intention there was to kill him. The intention was to argue and almost kill each other. But so it's just the characterizations I don't get the motives. There's no motives. There's no, like, I still don't understand what happened with Ryan Reynolds' character.
Astrology.
Astrology. There you go.
That's it. That's the magic phrase that just excuses everything in this episode, or is implied to. Yeah, it doesn't.
I thought I was. What I was going to say is, I feel like this scene kind of tells us that no, that they are the ones behind it. They are the ones that are in control. But then I'm like, actually, it doesn't. It just muddies the waters, because yes, they have the power, but they didn't intend to kill this guy. So did they intend to kill Reynolds? And they are the ones behind it. It's just so. It's so rabbit holey. There's so many rabbit holes to disappear down in this episode once you start to analyse it and start to ask questions. It's just there. So
we move on to a nice bookend to the interview scene earlier on, where Skulder and Molly get Terry and Margie both get confession. So they've got one each, and they both think they have the truth, and they get the innocent one. And it's a nice companion piece to that interview scene at the start.
So Margie calls Mulder to tell him she knows who the killer is, but Terry calls Scully to do the same. And like you say, it's kind of playing out the same way. Scully and White pull over as birds begin to fall out of the sky, and a mob makes their way down the street. It's like that mob is just still running around, looking for anyone to burn. Like, they went to the doctor's house. His case was proven to be fine, so he was off the hook. So why are they still running around as a mob? Why are they still wandering?
Carrying electrical torches.
It's so bizarre. Like,
what's even more bizarre is the fact that the birds that have fallen from the sky seem to only lie 20 yards in front of the car and none behind it. Because you can see the mob walking towards them, and there's no birds there. It just seems to be this small patch where the car is. Just
a few birds. The budget could only afford like 5 birds. Okay. So they get out, make their way down the street. Then Terry runs up to them to tell them that she knows who's responsible for the murders. Terry blames Margie blames Terry, and Mulder and Scully get competitive. To which we get another sure, fine, whatever from Scully. And then when the two girls are brought together at the station, all hell breaks loose. And they play a game of carry with each other, scanners, whatever.
I took this as because they're so heightened and angry emotionally, stuff was just happening. What really annoyed me was the inclusion again of the Keystone Cops theme, and the fact that it was played slapstickish out of nowhere. We've not had this. Guns are going off and people are falling and the trap falls, and it just it felt tonally completely out of place.
So all hell breaks loose. Mulder locks them both in a room together until all goes quiet. And then the mob shows up, demanding to see the suspects, but when they open the door, Terry and Margie just sit there holding each other and crying, as you will see in our thumbnail.
Yeah, you get a scene of the clock turning midnight, as if that's it. They just turn the powers off now, switch, done. Back to just being vulnerable girls, and that's the end of it.
Just and I love how the police station clock is the most accurate clock in the world. It's clearly in tune with the planets. Like forget Big Ben, forget Greenwich Mean Time, whatever clock they use for these things. No, that clock in the police station is on the ball.
The episode ends on a whimper, and absolutely, it's a wet noodle just finishes off.
A wet noodle.
It's just so. That's it. The girls are back in the closet.
Yeah,
Just to forget about it.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So we get we get a voiceover from Mulder, who basically sums up the fact that they are clueless. They literally have no clue what's gone on. Neither do we, quite frankly, as the audience. Mulder and Scully leave town after Scully puts her seat forward, and the two argue about which way to go. Sure, fine, whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you want to wrap up and give your score?
Sure, I'll wrap up. I didn't like this episode, Brian. I didn't like it at all. I didn't have much fun with it at all. I really didn't like that we got to see the worst sides of Mulder and Scully. You know, there was no cathartic nature as to why that was happening. We didn't see that for something that would be fixed in the end, something that would a hump that they got over. It just seems to be showing the antagonistic side of each of these characters, just because that might be fun.
Yeah.
And it's not. The episode is tonally all over the place. It's disjointed in its storytelling. It has some fun moments of direction, which I think are to be commended because they are good. But ultimately, the episode left me very cold, and I was egging it on to get to the end of the episode. I wanted it done because I knew it was going to have nothing to do with any of the mythology. It was just going to be one of those episodes that I really didn't like. I won't go back to. I think if I'm being generous, I think I'll go for a 2.5 because of some of the directing and because some of the moments were kind of fun. But ultimately, it's not one I'm going to rush back to at all.
Yeah. I have to agree, to be honest. I was touching on a 3.5 before we started talking about it, and then as I was going through my notes and started to realise just how stupid a lot of this is and how aimless, how disjointed, and how mean-spirited as well. Like you said, we see the worst of Mulder and Scully, but we don't get them. We don't get a thing at the end where they come back together. We get no apologies. We're just supposed to go into whatever next week's episode is, as if this never happened. Unfortunately, it did. It's like I've said before. To me, this feels like Carter trying to do his best Morgan impersonation. And there's a reason why Morgan
he's not an impersonator.
There's a reason why he shouldn't be impersonating Darren Morgan. There's no, like, if you ask me what the theme is of this episode, couldn't tell you.
It's chaos.
I don't know what theme that Carter was intended to explore. Whereas if you look at a Morgan episode, each one, I can give you a clear theme that he's dealing with throughout the entire episode, and that every scene touches on in some way, and it's very carefully calibrated. Although it seems like it's not because it's so kind of just thick with gags and stuff. But Carter, please stick to the mythology until we get to season 10 and 11.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's jump on to
2.5 from me as well. Yeah.
2.5. Right. Let's change tact a little bit and tell me a little bit about Grotesque, the next episode.
Well, Grotesque. See, I always hate this bit of the show now because I've got to tell you what I think is going to be, because a lot. I've not seen a lot of these in quite a while, and I recalled Syzygy being quite a solid, fun little episode. It wasn't. And now I recall Grotesque being a pretty solid, dark, slightly twisted kind of episode. It's more. It airs on the serious side. It's a more serious Monster of the Week episode.
Right.
But it's to do with gargoyles and
Ooh.
things like that. So that might not be as great as you as you're hoping for there. But there's a serial killer involved, and there's also Kurtwood Smith as a guest star.
Oh,
So,
Clarence Bodica.
yeah. So
Um,
yeah, there you go.
Okay, just a quick tidbit from IMDb on Syzygy. Syzygy is a straight line configuration of three celestial bodies. Syzygy is also a term used by Carol Jung to mean a union of opposites. Means
Okay.
nothing. There we go.
Look,
I,
I see what Carter was trying to go for, but it just doesn't work because he's found his excuse to make people act weird and out of character, but then he doesn't really do anything with it other than make people act weird and out of character.
yeah.
So there you go.
Hey ho. There we have it. So, as always, thank you for listening to this episode. If you wouldn't mind giving us a little review on iTunes, it helps people discover our show, and if we get more people listening and interacting with it, would always be great. And we'll see you next episode for Grotesque. I'm looking forward to that one, Brian.